Holy fried tentacle nuggets, Batman! Ranking of Kings is an anime that I expected nothing from. Like many other people, I took one look at that cover art and said, no thank you, I'll go ahead and watch my Mushoku Tensei and My Senpai is Annoying. But after being hounded constantly to watch it, I decided to give it a try, and I am so thankful that I did. This is an anime full of incredible characters that you can't help but root for. Even the people that seemed evil at first somehow snuck their way into my heart. If you didn't know, this is actually my second video talking about Ranking of Kings, and it definitely deserves a second video, because this show has only gotten better. It has only continued to improve. I know some people were saying that the show has gotten worse as it's continued to air, but allow me to tell you why you're completely wrong. I'm just kidding, by the way. Obviously, you can have whatever opinion you want. Don't let anybody tell you that your opinion is wrong, because that just can't be true. That's not a thing. But whatever your opinion is, I'm pretty sure you'll let me know in the comments down below, just like last time. Speaking of comment sections, you guys were actually amazing in the comment section on the first Ranking of Kings video, and my brother and I really appreciate all of the kind words and support. We just wanted to make that known. Thank you very much for that. But if you are a person who has not watched the first video yet, then I highly recommend you watch that one first, because spoilers, nothing is off limits this video. I'm about to get down and dirty this video, you feel me? So what I want to do here is expand on what I talked about in the previous video and also unpack some of the new information that we have been given, because holy shit, a lot has happened since I made the first video. But the main thing that I want to do here is tell you why I think that Ranking of Kings was an amazing anime through its entire run. Basically everything that was established in the beginning was elaborated on in a meaningful way, but I can definitely see why not everyone agreed with the way that things unfolded. Bocchi is known for being extremely weak. He's not even able to pick up tiny rocks or hold a normal sized sword. But after receiving training from Despa, he becomes the strongest person this side of the Mississippi. One complaint that I saw was that Bocchi became very overpowered very quickly, and not because of his raw physical strength, but because of his skill. People were saying that this change kinda came out of left field, and it didn't really seem earned. But we have to remember that Bocchi has been training the things he can since he was born. He might have literally zero strength, but the difference is that he knows that he has zero strength. So he trained on his own with multiple snakes to perfect his ability to dodge to the extent that he is basically untouchable. The thing is, Bocchi has been training his entire life, but he just now received the information necessary to create a fighting style he can use with the skills that he had. What a lot of people seem to forget is that progression isn't linear. Sometimes it can take months or even years until that one critical piece of information finally clicks. This is what leads to that eureka moment where all of the pieces seem to suddenly fall into place. But in reality, it's something that you have constantly worked at. To me, it didn't feel like Bocchi got some random power spike. He was always slowly working on his skills and trying to do what he could until he received training from Despa, where he was taught that in this world, everything has a weak point. Even the strongest person or material can be broken with practically no force if you know how and where to apply that force. Despa taught him about these weak points and gave him a weapon that was similar to an acupuncture needle. Bocchi had already trained his speed, insight, and reflexes to an insane degree. Now all he needed was a way to actually bring his opponents down, and with the help of Despa, he learned how to momentarily cut off blood flow to his opponent's brain in order to knock them unconscious. This was less like getting a random transformation that gave the character a huge power spike, and more like Deku from My Hero Academia learning a new technique that helped him better control his powers. So I actually liked how they presented this change in strength, because it was established at the beginning that this is where they wanted the story to go. And it's also not like he just became stupidly overpowered after he got his power spike. Right after he leveled up, they introduced a character named Oken. Oken has immortality, but also has this weird black goo ability that keeps pulling everything back together. Even if his armor or sword breaks, he can always put these things back together. So after realizing he couldn't defeat Oken, Bocchi tried to stop him by breaking his weapon, but he couldn't even do that. This makes Oken a perfect counter for Bocchi's newfound abilities, and it creates a rock paper scissors dynamic in the show. Bocchi can beat Boss, Boss can beat Oken, and Oken can beat Bocchi. I love this power dynamic, and it gives good opportunities to put characters' full strength and skills on display. Speaking of full strength on display, the fight between Bocchi and Boss was amazing. For anyone who was complaining about the art style, I think this fight single-handedly makes up for it. I love how the animation for the fight shows Boss's true size so that you can get the feel for how big this moment really is. Bocchi is finally acknowledged by his dad in combat after this fight, and you can't deny that this fight was really badass. One of the main complaints my brother and I saw was about characters constantly flip-flopping. Basically, a lot of people were saying that certain actions people took didn't really make sense and they didn't really align with their original motives. But I think that some people were confused by specific choices that were made because of preconceived notions that they had. There were some things that everybody did agree on though. Take Hilling for example. The first time that we see Hilling, she seems like the embodiment of the evil stepmother trope. But then once we learn more about her, it becomes apparent that she is actually a very kind and caring mother that didn't want to see her son fail. And from what I can tell, nobody thought that this was flip-flopping. We just now understand why she was so stern and seemed like a dick at times. When you see people's actions out of context, you might make a snap judgment about them. When Bocchi is about to square off against his brother Daida, Bebin is sitting in the corner twirling his mustache saying, "Yes, he will never defeat Daida. Slytherin will take the House Cup." And that's because we are used to seeing tropes, especially in anime. Hilling seems like the evil stepmother trope. Bebin seems like the evil snake guy, but Ranking of Kings is about breaking those tropes. They are all presented in ways that make you think that they are the embodiment of these tropes, but that is not their whole character. Something that I really love about Ranking of Kings is that these characters just feel like people. Sometimes it feels like authors learned how to interact with other people by watching anime. Then they took this knowledge and made characters based on how they think humans interact. And you know what? That's not even always a bad thing. Like, I did not meet a single person as adorable as Yui from K-On! But god damn it, I love that anime. That's why I love that they took these character archetypes that we were so used to make us think, oh yeah, I know where this is going. Then a few moments later, chuck those tropes right out the window. These characters felt very grounded for better and for worse. When people make decisions, they try to make the best choice for themselves while doing the best they can to not screw over everyone else around them. But what happens when people don't care about everyone else around them? Well then, we get people like Miranjo. She was the character that I saw the most people complaining about, which I kind of understand, but I feel like most things that she did made sense given her history. Miranjo has committed many horrible acts, and for those things, I've seen many comments saying that they hate Miranjo and she's completely irredeemable. But many people seem like they just want to disregard all of the terrible things that happened to her in the past. I'm not saying that you have to love Miranjo as a character or even like her. I don't think that's why they put her in the story. I think most people might be frustrated by her because they don't understand her decision-making process. I'm pretty sure it is fair to say that Miranjo had a harder childhood than most of us. Her mother was killed. She was tortured by villagers who also destroyed her face and cut off her hands. She was about 5 or so at the time, which is when most of us are starting kindergarten, by the way. From this point on, she was scarred with unthinkable trauma, and her only interaction with another person for a long time was with Boss. Boss is an overall nice guy at this point in the story, but let's be real, he isn't the best role model. He makes a deal with the devil to siphon his unborn child's strength. He also, for the most part, isolates Miranjo from other people. I think this isolation led her to never learning basic things. You know, like the value of a human life. She tried to take her own life, so it's easy for me to see that she wouldn't value the lives of others. Boss was always the one that was there for her, and he even stopped her from killing herself. So now Miranjo wants to live to make Boss happy. But now from her point of view, everyone else is essentially an NPC. Like, do you feel bad when you're playing Grand Theft Auto and then the mission says to kill a guy and steal his car? Hell no, you mash triangle and you never think about that NPC again. I think that this is how Miranjo views people. After going through so many hardships, something snapped within her. She no longer saw people as living beings with emotions, she only saw her goal and what she needs to achieve that goal. For example, if you wanted to become the best League of Legends player, then most rational human beings would think to themselves, okay, I have to train harder and longer than anybody else in hopes that one day, maybe I will become the best. But another far darker option would be to just kill everybody else that's better than you at League of Legends and still technically you achieved your goal. But obviously that's a terrible thing to do, and if you're a normal person, then that thought shouldn't even cross your mind. Because even if you were evil enough to do this, at the end, you would feel empty. Because you didn't really achieve anything. You just skipped all of the hard work to get to the end. See, if you never want to lose at anything again, it's actually pretty simple. Like, if I never wanted to lose at basketball again, I could just keep challenging the same 2-year-old and then just keep dunking this little runt into the dirt. But it doesn't feel satisfying because I knew I was going to win. I didn't work to get any better at basketball, I just chose a weaker opponent. This is why even after Boss is finally strong enough to defeat the enemy he couldn't beat before, he doesn't feel good about it. He feels empty because he didn't put in the work for that strength he stole. Now picture feeling that empty feeling all the time. This is how Miranjo always feels. She lost her sympathy, she lost her humanity, and the only person that could make her feel anything was Boss. This is why she is so attached to him and tries so hard to make his dreams come true. All she wants is Boss to achieve his goal and to stay by his side. She knew Boss needed a new body, so her new objective was to get him one by any means necessary, which led her to taking Daida's body and using it as a vessel so that Boss could live once again. She is someone who has definitely lost her way, but as she starts following through with her plan, she starts to become more aware of what she is actually doing. She sees how hard Bojji is fighting. He isn't fighting for the sake of glory or any form of self-indulgence. He is fighting purely for the sake of others. This is the main thing that makes Bojji such a lovable character. Most people think of him as an idiot mindlessly wandering the street, giving his clothes to people he just met. But everything that he has done has always been for other people's happiness. Miranjo starts to see her mother in Bojji. She starts to remember the things that her mother taught her, that you should build your own happiness on the happiness of others. This is why when she sees Kage save Bojji, the person that reminds her of her mother, she decides to heal him. This might seem random, but I don't think that Miranjo did this for Kage. I think that she saved Kage because she saw how much he meant to Bojji. I think that's why in the scene where she stops Kage from crossing over into the afterlife, she asks him, "Have you no attachment to this life?" This jogs Kage's memory and makes him remember Bojji. Kage decides that he can't stay with his mom and he has to get back to him. He comes back to talk to Miranjo and he asks if it would be weird to thank her even though she was the one who caused everything in the first place. He decides to thank her anyways despite all of the evil she had done, and this starts something within Miranjo. You see her other self that is lying with Daida lose the mask that she was wearing. Her hands come back and she seems okay now. The other version of herself fades away, and I think that this is what starts her awakening. This is where Miranjo starts becoming more aware of what she is doing and starts to think how her actions affect other people. But she is also at a point where she feels like she is already too deep. She has no one else but Boss. She can't even die and be reunited with her mother because of the deal that she made with the demon. After this moment, she doesn't seem as invested in what she is doing. She finally realizes exactly how horrible everything she has done really was. She has finally come back to her senses. I feel like a big component of this story was forgiveness. Miranjo has done many terrible things, but after seeing what she has gone through, can you sympathize with the position she is in? Miranjo is now in the headspace to actually try to change herself for the better and make up for what she has done. But can you forgive her? Throughout the anime, people thought Bojji and Miranjo's mother were idiots, and they took advantage of their kindness. But after everything, I respected their ideals the most. You should always try to be the best version of yourself. And if everyone tried to build their own happiness off of the happiness of others, I feel like the world would be a better place. We could all help push each other up instead of trying to pull others down. These two were always willing to forgive others. Even after Domus attempted to kill Bojji, he still forgave him. I mean, it did take him a little bit, but still, he was somehow able to do it. When people are truly sorry for what they have done and want to do better, how can they if they are never given the chance? That's why I loved this quote so much. Hate the sin and not the sinner. No one is perfect. No one is all good or all bad. Doing a bad thing doesn't necessarily make you a bad person. I think that's why they put Miranjo in this story. After all of the terrible things she has done, after learning about her upbringing and what was done to her, are you now able to sympathize with her? Are you able to forgive her? So that's kind of how I see it. I think of Miranjo's character as a question. How much are you willing to forgive? Can you learn to hate the sin and not the sinner? Now, obviously they took that to an insane degree in this anime, but deep down I want to believe that a majority of people are good. Because we have all made mistakes. We've all done things that we aren't necessarily proud of. Hopefully they weren't as bad as what Miranjo did, but you get my point. But people aren't bad just because they did a bad thing. When people wrong me and they are truly sorry for what they did, I want to be able to forgive them. If we are always latching onto the past, then how can we ever really move forward? So basically what I'm trying to say is, I forgot to do the dishes one time. Why are we still arguing about this? I would like to thank our wonderful patrons Rem, Bubsy, and Shrexophone. If you enjoy what we do here, then hopefully you will support us over on Patreon. So you listened to my entire spiel on why I think that Ranking of Kings is an amazing anime through its whole run. So allow me to extend an olive branch here. This anime was great all the way from episode 1 until episode 22. Unfortunately, there are 23 episodes. The end of Ranking of Kings wasn't bad enough to ruin the show as a whole for me, but I do have some complaints. 9-year-old boy suddenly wants to marry a who knows how old woman? I get forgiving her, but damn, jumping straight into marriage? Like we can't even get a cup of coffee first? The most annoying thing about the last episode was the fact that Kage left Boji. This just seems so extremely out of character for him. I get they needed a reason for Boji to want to leave the throne and go on adventures, but I just feel like there were so many other ways to make that happen besides Kage leaving Boji's side. All in all, I loved this anime, and I wouldn't change much about it. But thank you very much for watching the entire video. If you did, it really helps us out a lot. And just remember, you don't have to believe in yourself. Believe in me. Believe in the me that believes in you. And I'll see you in the next video.